I'm an early bird and I'm a night owl, so I'm wise and I have worms.
What are you talking about? You look totally cool, like a real chick.
I look like the Korean Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly was cool.
May he rest in peace, but Buddy Holly was not an attractive man.
I'm not a garbage man! I'm a muffin man!
It's the Al Travis Show. Our next guest has got to be just living in all. I would never want to switch places with her. She is Shannon Watson with Majority in the Middle. Shannon, you're smiling. Why? Why in God's green earth would you smile in the last week?
Well, the idea of us sort of Freaky Friday trading places was a really entertaining thought to me. Yeah, I don't know if I'd sign up for that either.
Well, for many different reasons. I'm just saying you got a bad work and what's going on. You don't want to be me. I get it. Here, let's start just with what happened last Thursday. Because I found it, these are things I can talk about I find ridiculously funny, and I want to know what you're thinking about it. Because you're this majority in the middle. We get an announcement on Thursday. I don't remember what time it was. The governor's out there, the heads of all the Senate and the House, they're standing there, and they're going to make their announcement. We did it. We came to terms. Everybody had to give a little bit. The governor's going off. This is a wonderful speech. Everybody gave a little bit to get where we got to be. Everybody didn't get what they wanted. And then you're thud, 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 thud on the back door like a Kirby salesman trying to get in your house to sell you. Thud, and they're yelling. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait, this isn't a setup. They're mad. There's somebody outside the door who is not happy. And when you find out who it is, you'd think, I threw it out there, my first thought was, Republicans are mad about something. Well, somebody's mad. It ends up being 20, 30 Democrats on the other side of that door yelling like, nope, you're killing our communities. They are mad. Now, I giggled because my first thought was, you didn't know you were ticking them off? Maybe you should have done it at another location where they couldn't get to the door so easy. What were your thoughts, Shannon, when the can't we all just get along mentality you live by blew up on Thursday?
There's a couple of things that sort of played into that situation. The first one is that I would be very surprised if the news was being delivered to them as they were watching the live stream, because all of the caucuses had met at 9 a.m. this morning. The press conference was at 10:30. That was about 11 o'clock before there was banging on the door. So there was some thought that went into that.
You say it wasn't a natural reaction. They all got together, got ticked, and said, what do we do about it?
Yes, like natural reaction. And there was a little bit
planning.
Plan.
Okay. I can live with that.
The other thing that I think is particularly interesting, which was a stat that somebody else had evidently talked about, one of the DFL legislators had talked about a while back, but something that I didn't sort of run the numbers on until yesterday. Of the House DFL caucus, of which a lot of people who were in that group, not all of them, but a lot of them, House DFL caucus, 73% of the members have only served in the majority. So that subtracts out the people who were elected this past year, and this is their first year, and so the only thing that they know is a tie. That subtracts out the 10 members that, so there was 8 members who were elected this year. 10 members have been in both the majority, the minority, and the tie. But 73%, like huge big bulk of the DFL caucus, has only been in the majority. Yeah. And so they probably had the hardest time this session with how do you act in a tie? Because there's usually two roles that you play. Either you're in the majority, you run the table, you sort of get all the things that you want, you chair the committees, you do those things, or you're in the minority and you point fingers and you yell and scream and you talk about process and that, people aren't being heard, whatever. One of the things that I was watching very carefully and that was going to show how well this session went or not was how both of those two caucuses, Republicans and Democrats, how much they all acted like they were in the majority and how much they were going to act like they were in the minority. If you act like you're in the majority, then you focus on what you can get done. If you act as a member of the minority, you try to throw sand in the gears and you point a lot of fingers. For the most part, for the most of the session, a lot of people were acting like they were in the majority. And I think that is what got us to a pretty good place. Not everything got done, but a pretty good place. But
not everything got done. I love you, Shannon. Nothing is done. They closed, they stopped session. They did not get the one thing done they had to do, which was the budget. They're going to keep working on it. But as far as getting things done, what do you...
The budget is in several pieces. The budget is in several pieces, and several of those pieces did get done. So the thing that they have to work out is the rest of it, and I think that's okay. There was sort of an acknowledgement late last week that, you know, they were probably going to have to go into special session, which actually, like, I think helped the tone a lot the last couple of days.
Well, let me ask you this, and I mean this with respect, by the way. Senator Fatah, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He did the Uber move. He did the Uber move last time. He wanted the Uber situation. He was going to go to the nines because of one seat majority. He had a lot of power. And again, I'm not ripping him. He thinks that his constituency wants it, and he goes to the mat for it, as they say.
Yes.
He's one of those on this side of the 20 that said, hey, we don't like what's going on. He was one of those. Mm-hmm. This is a man, I'm sorry, not to fool with. He will go to the mat if he believes it bad enough. He's already proven that to us. So does that coalition with him, I'm not saying if he's leading it or not, but he's on it.
Yeah.
Is that enough to upset that entire process of the budget? Because he will not give, and I presume people with him, they say they'll let the government shut down. You're smiling. You can only believe what a guy's done before. And again, I'm not judging him. They had the power. He had the ability to hold that off and get his Uber move. Good for him. He's that dedicated.
So there's a couple of different pieces in this. The first one is in the 2023 session, Senator Fateh, his thing was the Uber bill. He was the one guy who didn't get his thing. There was a lot of, a lot of press, a lot of talk about how in the world did the DFL hold these coalition, hold their caucuses together to get all of these, transformative, whatever things done.
Yep.
And how in the world did they do that? They said yes to everybody. Like everybody sort of got their priority thing done. And it had to be, all right, I'm going to vote for your thing, so you're going to vote for my thing, and we all hold together. The one guy who didn't get his thing, although he did in 2023, that Uber bill was one of the last bills that was passed, but it was also the one bill that was vetoed by the governor because it wasn't ready for prime time. So in the 2024 year, he did not have confidence in the rest of the team and in the governor that, he could get his thing. So that's why, he boycotted the session and kind of ground everything to a halt. That only works if your caucus leader is only willing to get the votes from the majority caucus, which I don't necessarily know that that's Aaron Murphy's strategy in the Senate, because the bipartisan work that has to happen in the House, like there is no question in the House, like you cannot constitutionally get anything done without bipartisan support. And so that gives her not only just a little bit of incentive, but a little bit of cover to make sure that the bills are sort of more bipartisan in the Senate, because it's going to have to get through the House. So,
but if you have defectors on your side, I don't mean that in a bad way. If you have people on your own side that are not, and it's Fateh, I keep messing. Anyway, Fateh, and then let's say one or two others that are just saying we're going to stick on this. Are you saying she's going to go grab some Republicans? They would have done that anyway if they could get them. So my point is, is she willing to say a couple of her, what do you call them, blue dogs, go to them and say, you're allowed to vote with the Republicans. This is the compromise. I worked with them. We're going to have to live with it because of these guys on our side. Is she willing to throw some of her, it's like these people don't have their own thoughts. And I'm going to use Nick Frantz. He comes on the show all the time. Love him. Say, Nick, got to get this thing over the finish line. You need to be the guy. Step over, vote with the Republicans. We're going to get this thing done.
That's a good question.
I know, but it's hard because who does that? Who sacrifices themselves?
Well, and who sacrifices themselves for, the getting stuff, for the governing, not just the campaigning. I think this is not Aaron Murphy's first rodeo. She has been in divided government a lot. So I don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible. Also, the Blue Dog Coalition members, they are very adamant about, like, this is what they wanted to do going into creating the coalition and going into the session, saying we do want to work across the aisle. We have some districts that are a little more moderate. These are going to be priorities for us. I think that was a really good indication that, yep, people are willing to cross the aisle and do stuff.
But so far on anything important, no one has moved up till today.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. The Office of Inspector General, that was a bipartisan vote.
But that's not going anywhere. That's my point. It didn't get through.
It didn't get through because, you know what's interesting? It didn't get through because what they were doing last night when it didn't get through the House, there's a different vote threshold to declare an urgency and do that bill. That was actually, you won't see it from social media this morning, the way things are being framed. But there were 3 DFLers who voted last night to take up that bill on the floor. There weren't enough of them to declare the urgency. Right. So if that had just been an up or down vote, those 3 Democrats would have made that pass.
I've got to go to break. I'm going to lead you with this because maybe I'm misunderstanding. I'm understanding our Constitution says by the end of this session, they have to have a budget done. Well, we missed that. Now, as the Constitution say, or get her done just before the shutdown. Well, then people are saying, well, some are willing to shut this thing down. If it's in your Constitution, you got to get her done. But if you just don't get her done, what happens? Maybe we'll talk. We'll talk with Senator Shannon Watson about it after this on the Al Travis Show.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease! It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
All the special interests are represented in St. Paul. But who speaks for you? Center of the American Experiment does. Our policy fellows dig into the tough issues that matter to you and offer common sense solutions on education, taxes, crime, and energy. American Experiment is the trusted, nonpartisan voice of Minnesotans like you. We are working every day to make Minnesota a better, safer, more prosperous place. We are American Experiment. Go to americanexperiment.org to learn more.
As in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
And we've got our Shannon Watson, the executive director, the founder of Majority in the Middle, politics we can be proud of. My question, Shannon, is They tell me I must pay my taxes on the 15th. My what do you call it? Property tax on the 15th of May and the 15th of October. And you must. This is the rule. Al, you must follow this. Well, there's actually a constitution, for heaven's sakes, in this state that says these humans must get this work done by this date. Is it just a rule of thumb, really? Is it this year? What is it that, because it seems like nothing really, no one even thought twice that the Constitution said get her done by Monday. They just, we'll do it later.
Well, actually, what Article 4, Section 12.
Oh,
this
goodness,
is
you
a good time
are
to take
this
a break because I could look it up. Article 4, Section 12 of the Constitution, the legislature shall not meet in regular session nor in any adjournment thereof after the first Monday following the third Saturday in May of any year.
Yes.
After meeting at a time prescribed by law, the legislature may adjourn to another time and then 120 legislative days. So yes, the legislature is required to pass a budget. And yes,
a balanced budget, not just anybody, a balanced budget.
Balanced budget. We don't get to print our own money.
Did they do their work yesterday then? Did that get done is my question. It seems like it did not.
It did not, but there's nothing actually in the Constitution that says that they have to be done with that particular piece of business because the next a special session of the legislature may be called by the governor on extraordinary occasions. Although,
you mean the end of session, the extraordinary occasion of end of session when we go to special session?
Yes. So special sessions not so special anymore. The only requirement is actually that the budget be passed by the end of June, because that is when the fiscal year ends, and July 1 is when the fiscal year starts. So they have to be done by the end of June, which is one of the challenges to, in fairness. Like, I do things on deadlines. I'm sure you do things on deadlines. Deadlines that are sort of arbitrary. Like if you had said, I want to pay my property taxes by the 10th of October. Like that's my own personal thing. Like I'm going to get this paid by the 10th of October. If you don't, then that's okay because there's no penalty. The county's not going to come get your money until the 15th.
This is what people like you do to ruin America, Shannon. God love you. You give them that grace. I completely agree. If Al's running it and I want to get it done on the 10th, because that way he gives me 5 extra days, and I don't make the 10th, but that's okay. No penalty. I get it in by I get how you and I can run our lives that way. Yeah. I think we are allowed to ask the 201 people that we vote in to run our business to do it better than, we gave it a shot. I don't want you to give it a shot. Because here's the thing. We may or may not, depending who you talk to, need some bonding to get done. Really stuff that the state needs to get done. Guess what? Can't seem to be bothered by that because we didn't get done the work we have to get done. We'll do it again next year. That's what they said last year. At some point, we have to ask more of these people. Both sides. I'm not ripping a side. Get her done. And we did it, and then you're like, self-imposed. Yeah, I get it. But until we start holding that, I think we just get what we asked for.
Well, and it depends on what done means, because, this is the mostly closely divided legislature we've ever had and probably will ever have. And if you think that the bonding bill that needs to get done is $700 million, and I think, which, I'm just sort of assigning this, and I think the bonding bill that we need to get done is, $1.8 billion, then, done is arbitrary. Like, are you going to come over to my side and say yes, just in order to get it done? Well, that's not the way it works. Particularly when you get advocates and stakeholders and everybody else involved. So I will say, I do expect a lot of our elected leaders. And I understand that, sometimes they don't get done. If they're not done by June 30th, I think that's an enormous problem. I think a couple of extra days and a special session. Also, to make sure, one of the things that was different about the session was they weren't doing floor sessions until 3 a.m. And actually, I think that is enormously important because tired, cranky people do not do good work.
What? You're on the show every week with me. We do fine. Shannon, I love having you on the program. I got to fly. We're out of time. Majority in the Middle, majoritymiddle.org. Just go there. You can sign up. It's a great organization. I want to look it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get on our newsletter list or send us a few bucks and join our happy functioning group.
It's always sunny at Majority in the Middle. MajorityMiddle.org. More after this.